Hey guys, welcome back to the JPM Performance channel. It is once again time for a shop tour. We are getting into the end of February. Here we are, February 22nd. It is going to be in the mid 60s in Topeka today, and when we start to see some 60s like this, and then you look at the extended, I think we've got some cold weather for next week, but all in all, pretty nice. So looking forward to get into obviously racing season and everything else. But anyway, let's get right into the shop tour. So I've got something that's kind of interesting. If you watch some of my reels either on Instagram or Facebook, you probably saw the little red Lotus Europa, kind of a really unique looking body, all sorts of custom stuff. A really cool car. But anyway, the last time we were on the dyno, they had turned up the boost. Yes, it's a boosted. They put a turbo on this Europa, and as soon as it got up to about 10 pounds of boost, the clutch was just slipping. So that was a couple months ago, so we spent the winter designing something. So I just kind of wanted to show you what we came up with because it's kind of interesting. Now obviously this is not the pressure plate that was in the actual car, but this is a stock flywheel and pressure plate for that Europa. And what we did is I work with a company by the name of soooo Motorsports, and they build all sorts of custom flywheels. So what we came up with is a very nice, beautiful billet steel aluminum flywheel and a twin organic disc Tilton clutch. Now, normally I use powertrain clutches, but Tilton already had this strange little spline for the Lotus for somehow, some way. And so we're going to have a twin disc 7 1/4, and they even came up with they adapted the stock throwout bearing to a proper throwout bearing with the stock arm and everything. So there's a reason why I go to soooo for this kind of custom stuff, and this is another example of the really nice stuff that they do. So just kind of wanted to show you guys that. It's very obscure for something that I would have in my shop, but since I've been dynoing this car for a couple years now, and we've been developing it, when we had our clutch problem, I told them it's time to go to a real clutch. So pretty cool stuff. I'm getting this shipped off to them, and probably in the next month or two, next thing you know, we'll be seeing that car back on the dyno. So we'll get some videos of that going on as well. So I was actually talking to my dad a couple weeks ago, and he was wanting to see if I wanted to drive his MGA at a race this year. So I actually agreed to go to, I don't even know what they call it now. They used to call it the Hawk. They used to call it the Brian Redman International Challenge. It's up at Elkhart Lake, and it's in July every year. So I'm going to be going up there with my mom and dad and driving the MGA. And so we were talking about brake pads, and I told him, we're going to need to put on something a little more aggressive for me because I'm maybe a little more abusive than he is. So he gave me his brake pad number for obviously Carbotex, and we are going with an XP20, which is what I normally would run on any car that's 2,000 pounds or more. It's kind of the compound that I like the best. It's basically their most aggressive compound, just under the endurance pad. So I'm going to get a set of Carbotex on the MGA, and we'll be looking good. Also got in some collectors. If you guys have ever seen any of the F production headers that I build, then you've seen probably these collectors, but this is actually for Stephen Clark, and these are his, you can see they're 3 pieces. Stephen, if you're watching, this is how it sits in the car. So this goes up and down. So when you slip these onto your primaries, they go vertical, not horizontal. So you put your first two ones on vertical, and then you put your last one on horizontally, and then you can tag on to your exhaust system from there. So beautiful pieces. These are actually, these collectors I do not make, because the people that know how to do this kind of stuff and this kind of welding and this kind of work inside This is all they do for a living. So I do not make these collectors. I use SPD out in California. They're the best. So get those primaries done pretty soon and get this off to Stefan, and he's actually getting an engine built from somebody else, but this header should really help him in his performance of the new engine that he's getting built. So that's what we've got going on there. Did get in a couple more fun little projects. I know I've probably shown you guys this kind of stuff before, but these are the cores that I tend to get. This transmission is particularly nasty, but by the time we strip it down, obviously, you know, clean up the cases, glass beat them, sonic clean them, make them really good, you know, it'll look like new. I know it looks pretty bad right now, but that'll come around. Same thing with these engines. So this is a core engine for Hayden Manis's Spec Miata. As you guys know, I don't do too many Spec Miata engines, but these guys are personal friends of mine and they live in Topeka, so I'm going to continue to do their engines. So this will be a spare engine for them. And of course, you can't really see it right now because it is in the box. John Sewell's STL B18C1 is packed up in the crate and leaving today, heading towards Florida so he can get it in and get ready for a few races before the runoffs, obviously, with the new engine to get that going so he can have a lot more horsepower than he's had in the past, hopefully, right? That's the goal. So beyond that, just kind of chipping away with the rental car. Got the little camera ready to go for in the car, got the logbooks out to do some annual stuff, and I did get the seat in position for Eric. Actually fits really well for someone who's about my size too, so I wouldn't have to change it from here. It's up a little bit higher than if you were a little bit taller, but you can see it's pretty close to the back of the bar, and it's very comfortable. So I'm going to keep chipping away, get all the fluids changed, get it up on the scales, do a little corner weight and alignment check before we get to going to Hallett here in a couple of months. So I've got a little bit of time, but because the Mazda 2's done, now that I own a second race car for some odd reason, I'm going to chip away on it. So it gives me more to do, just what I need, right? So Mazda 2 update. Basically, the only thing I've got this week, and I wanted to give a shout out to Charlie Mua, who is the owner of Doryyoku. He's up, if you look up Charlie, Moua on Facebook, you'll find him. His company's like Doryyoku. He does all sorts of crash bars, bumper bars under Hondas and Miatas and things like that. But what I use him for is powder coating. So he does this beautiful, this is the color that I've picked out to kind of use on all of my engines. It's a Volk gray, Volk wheel gray. And so I had the Mazda 2 valve cover done. So that's my Mazda update of the week. We put it in the finish completed area, and I think the only other thing that I did was I put Eagles Canyon onto the AIM dash. So just kind of thinking about, you know, getting ready to go racing because we're about 4 weeks out, which I'm super excited about. One more month, we'll go racing. So that's our shop tour for the week. Starting to get a lot of calls about dynoing. I've actually dynoed quite a few cars in the last week. So that's kind of, you know, as the weather warms up, do a lot more dynoing and things like that. So I've got a car coming in this afternoon that's going to be here for a while that you guys will see next week, and more cars coming in the next, in the next couple of weeks. I've got even more stuff coming in. So as we get into race season, things are really going to start happening. So appreciate you guys watching as always. If you have any questions, you know, hit me up down below. And appreciate you guys watching as usual. Have a great rest of your week. See you next week. Take care.